Welcome to Building Better Businesses. I'm Kristin, founder of Catalyst Consulting, an agency that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs start, grow, and level up their businesses. This podcast will bring you interviews with experts in all things business related. Have questions for a business attorney? We've got answers. How about your health insurance? Got you covered there too. New episodes coming your way every week. Find us on the podcasting platform of your choice. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Building Better Businesses with Catalyst Consulting. My guest today is Kris Langworthy, who is a leadership consultant, wizard, and many other things. And we met, as a lot of us entrepreneurs are, we met through the Polka Dot Powerhouse group, which is a lot of my most recent guests have been from the Polka Dot group. So I'm excited to have you. Thanks for joining me.
Well, it's good to be here. It's kind of fun to connect again, and we haven't talked for a little bit, so jump on this call is a blast. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I think we actually just connected because we were talking about assessments originally.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like leadership assessments. So we connected, and then I was like, you should also be on my podcast. So
here we are.
Here we are. This is how it all works out. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about you as a human being. Who is Kris?
A little bit as a human being. That's kind of a crazy ride, right?
Right.
Where do we start with that? That's a dangerous, wide open question. So Kris was raised as a farm girl. And the fun part is you can take the girl off the farm, but you can't take the farm out of the girl, right? So even when I'm doing my work stuff, I'll pull up references to farm life a lot of time and, crops and harvesting and what you're sowing in your life and what you're reaping in your life. And yeah, you can't take her out of that. So oldest of 5, but mother of 6. How about that? Took it up one notch and had kind of repeated some of my mom's history. Mom had 3 kids and then had a 5-year break and had 2 more. We had 4 kids, had a 5-year break and had 2 more. So live out here, mom of a cancer survivor. That's actually what started my whole entrepreneurial journey. Is I was frustrated. I was working as a nurse. I was frustrated in healthcare, frustrated with management, disillusioned with some stuff, and got an opportunity to do some digging and start sharing our story of going through treatment with cancer. And just the stuff I learned in that season just kind of pivoted my life. I like to refer it as BC, before cancer. And it kind of feels almost that long ago at this point too. I think although we kind of joke when I say BC, before Corona, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
So mom of 6, the oldest is the cancer survivor, is doing great. She is out in her own apartment, living her own life. She's just a whole medical miracle in herself. She had a brain tumor. And the youngest is 11. And I now have 2 children married, which is absolutely crazy because I just got married yesterday. So I'm not really sure how I have 2 children that are married already.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, live outside of the cities. Farm girl, got to live on a country acreage, and so I'm happy woman. I get to live close enough to Minneapolis that I can go shopping, and far enough out that I can listen to the cows bellow at night if I want to.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do, honestly, is I like this space, but I also really like the convenience of city living. So I think ideally maybe like to have a little, it's just, I am a little introvert, and I also grew up in farm country. And so our closest neighbor was a half a mile down the road.
Yep.
And I'm I just don't know. And they were farmers. So they had just farmed all the land around us. I'm I don't know what having people next to me sometimes is just a bit much. But
I'm an extrovert and I love being out in the country. So yeah, it's kind of,
yeah.
Although I did used to say as a little girl that I always wanted to live in Montana on a ranch. And a few years back, I think it was about 10 years ago, we went out to Montana and I went, yeah, no, I don't know if I could be that secluded.
Yeah, that's a whole different level. Like you said, you're close enough to a big city that you can get whatever you want there. You can go out, you could stay in a hotel for a weekend, you could go shopping, you could whatever.
Exactly.
Montana is beautiful, but God, yeah, that's a bit much.
It's a little. So all my friends in Montana, I love you. I admire you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're living the old school American dream. I
Yep,
think.
exactly. There you go.
Yeah. So share a fun fact about you, something random.
Something random. Well, one random that not everybody knows is that I wanted to live in Montana on a horse ranch. And the second thing is, like, how did these go together, Kristin? I have no idea. But, you know, in your little girl brain, they somehow go together. I was raised Catholic, and as a little girl, I was just mesmerized by nuns and their flowing black garb and all their stuff. And I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. Like, how romantic would it be to be a nun? Like, how's the oxymoron of that? And now she's the mother of six, you know? So there's something like something hiccup somewhere along the line. Maybe it's The Sound of Music, round 2. I don't know.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's very Catholic of you to have 6 kids. Like, that seems like, don't Catholics normally have larger families? Especially like,
you know,
like Irish Catholic.
Some do, but I have a lot of Protestant friends who have large families too. So I think it's not as much. I think we used to associate it with that, but not so much anymore. Not so much. So
interesting. Yeah, the world has changed.
Just kind of.
But yeah,
my husband and I both came from a family of 5, and we always said we'd have 5 or 6, or excuse me, always said we'd have 4 or 5. Well, then we had our break between 4 and number 5. Well, you can't have number 5 without having a playmate. You know? So.
Yeah. So you're just doing the right thing for your kid.
Yeah, right. People say, "What were you thinking?" And I say, "I wasn't." Okay, that's all I'll say.
Yeah. Well, good for you. That's it's a whole different level of 6 kids is a lot, but I bet it's always been a fun, busy household. And
it is.
Never a dull moment.
No, it's actually really quiet these days. We're down to 2, and it's really quiet. So it's kind of a transition. Except when they all come home now, it's really probably the noise amps up even more. So.
That's too funny. Yeah. You guys have to just like intercom system. You're like, is anyone else here? Like, it's so quiet.
We actually built a house in 2009. We built a house in 2009. And the joke was that my aunts and uncles who built houses in the 70s did put intercoms in. And we said, well, now we have cell phones. We just send a Snapchat from the second floor of the house to the basement. Hey, you can put your laundry away.
You're like, will you bring me some popcorn?
Yeah. I haven't tried that one yet. I think I might try that one next. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime. I'm about the snacks. So, So what do you do on the work side of things? How do you provide support for business owners and entrepreneurs?
So how I support, let me try to say that again twice. That was thanks, Kristin. That was a mouthful. So I provide support by helping you understand yourself and the people around you better, really helping you build that understanding of what is sucking your energy at the end of the day. Like, if you're wired as a Ferrari, let's put you in a Ferrari lane. But if you're wired as, a station wagon personality wise, which sounds really not sexy, I get it. But if you're a person that doesn't like to run fast, then let's not put you in a business model that makes you run fast. Let's help you find a business model or a leadership role that matches how you're wired, and that all of them are valuable. I love helping them understand, like, what kind of a leader are you naturally? Are you that conductor leader, or are you that analyzing type of leader? Where are you going to shine? And does your business really align to that? Because I come out of the healthcare field, and what I found is people were stressed out and maxed out because they were in roles that didn't match them. They were trying to live a pace that didn't match their wiring. And, just think electrical. If you try to pull too much tax on an electrical wire, you're going to have literally a fried out wire. Well, that's kind of what happens to human beings too. And so coming alongside business owners, helping them understand themselves, helping them understand their people better, helping them prioritize, helping them avoid some of the drama that happens. Like, let's focus on some outcomes. Let's just help you build a good emotional space so that you can succeed. But that comes from understanding yourself and appreciating who you are so that you can move forward. They talk about 80% of change doesn't work because it doesn't, we try to fix a system or we try to fix a product. But if we can get you thinking right, then the system will change in the way you want it to. Well, that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to come alongside you and help you get your thinking right about how you show up, how you work with your people.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's always been one of my strategies in my leadership career is the individualization and strategically placing people in the best seats or the best possible seats, because sometimes you can only control so much when you're in a corporate landscape.
Exactly.
I can't just reinvent the actual wheel, which is one of the reasons why I'm not there. Similar to your frustration.
Hence why we're in the roles we're in.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was one of the things we originally talked about was like, yeah, not a great employee anymore. But
I'm
yeah,
not
so in
following the rules
leadership,
and doing everything you tell me
yeah,
to do anymore.
yeah, it was pretty rough. But yeah, so I think that's one of the things, because one of my other strengths is that like connecting with people and figuring out who each person is individually, what makes them tick, and then that helps put together a team of little weirdos. That's
That's
what
perfect.
we're all a bunch of little weirdos, and so we got to just find a bunch of other little weirdos to hang out with and get whatever the job is done. It doesn't really matter
Yeah.
what kind of job it is. You find people, and
Well, and to
but to your point
understand,
too, like
to understand
it doesn't. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, I know I keep running over you. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, and to help you understand, those little weirdos have their own weirdo stunts. And so
Yeah.
just, how do we best work with them? How do we, my husband's a high structured, compliant engineering type. I am not, and that it doesn't mean he's the worst face of evil ever at times. It's that he's just giving me a different perspective on the situation. So
Yeah.
that's part of the fun of understanding yourself and
Yeah.
others, is that you can work together then with people that are different than you.
Mm-hmm. Because you got to have balance. Like that's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to have your Ferraris and you got to have your station wagons and
Yep.
your motorcycles and whatever. Like all the
Yep.
different stuff is what makes a really strong team, and you become better for it. Because like you said, like he brings some structure and balance probably, and you're like, well, let's just do the thing. And he's like, whoa, lady, hold on.
Have you been in my house lately?
No, I'm just taking a wild guess
Right.
based on some of my own tendencies. Well, and how engineer brains normally work. Like they're
Yeah.
all very. It's like, no, this is like, what do you mean? There's not a plan with like 26 different steps? No. Oh
What do
God.
you mean?
But then you bring the balance to him too, I'm
Yeah.
sure, where you're like, oh, it's fine. Like, come on, we'll be fine.
We joke all the time that he keeps me safe and stable, which
Yeah.
I sometimes like, and I keep him alive and active.
Yeah, good balance, good teamwork there.
It's good teamwork. We got to know which day it is. Are we working on stability today, or are we working on speed today?
Mm-hmm. That's funny. Yeah. But no, that's great. So, how did you end up? You originally were in nursing, right? And you did
Correct.
that up until you decided to do your own consulting stuff,
Yeah,
or I
yeah,
forget.
yeah.
Okay.
So back to the speed thing. Kris tends to sometimes do ready, fire, aim. Oh, whoops. I could have used a Kristin a long time ago to help me like navigate like a whole a business plan, like that 4-letter word called plan. That's a 4-letter word, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Literally, yeah.
Literally, yeah, literally. So I was in nursing, and in 2006, our daughter was diagnosed with cancer, like I said earlier. And coming out of that, went back into healthcare for a while, but was really frustrated, to be honest, with some decisions administration was making in more than one facility. I kind of jumped a couple facilities within a couple years, and just had some frustration with some things and didn't understand it. And at the same time, it's kind of like nothing happens in a vacuum, right? At the same time, was being asked to do some public speaking and teaching and talk some about our experience with cancer. And man, that totally brought me alive. I loved being in that place and space of teaching and helping people navigate tough stuff and helping them understand they could be confident, they could face toughs, they could make tough decisions, they could do things that you got more in you than you think you do. You're capable of more you think. And so those two storms kind of collided. And there was a particular day where some things went down, and my husband and I talked, and he's like, yep, you go ahead, submit your 2 weeks notice and you're done. And transitioned out, didn't fully have a plan in place, but knew a general direction and started going after it. And it's been, probably a slower business start, but it's been fun because I've been able to be mom and wife and adventurer all along the way and and my primary driving force is learning. So, I've learned a lot the last few years, and now being able to come alongside business owners and entrepreneurs and stuff and saying, hey, here, borrow some of my experiences. You can get out there, you can do it. Present is better than perfect, we say all the time. Get out there, make a difference, change lives. And that's what I've been doing the last few years, is just, okay, here we go. Ready, fire, aim. Oh, whoops, we're supposed to ready, aim, fire, but I didn't do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I for all my strategic abilities am also a doer and an action taker. And so there's like it's just kind of one of those little intricacies of how my brain works, is like I naturally just like see the bigger picture and strategy. And so I think like that faster. I guess that makes it sound like other people think. But you know what I'm saying? Like that's just what my brain does automatically. So
you have an amazing gift with that, Kristin. You do a great job where it's
like,
just fun how I can look at something and I can see stuff, but sometimes I have to really be able to have somebody help me see it, you know, but you have an ability where you are amazing at that. You see a strategy behind it. I tend to go deep fast and I don't think about how to get there fast, you know, and I love how you think strategically. I love how you think strategically. It's always been fun to watch how you do it. Yeah. You do a great job.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things though, because like sometimes I over strategize. Like that's the other side of it. I've had to kind of work through that over the years, where it's like, hey, like you don't have to, like it's the pendulum swing that happens sometimes, right? Like I'm very strategic, and so it used to take me a long time to do things, and now I'm just like, let's go. And sometimes I have to
waste in here, people.
But yeah, like seriously, I get super impatient. But there's still adjustments and things. It's the same thing that happens to you, I'm sure, where it's like you do something, you're like, oh, well, okay, maybe that wasn't the best, but it's going to happen anyway, no matter how good the plan is. Like you can have a perfect plan and then execute the plan, then you're like, oh, well, except maybe in your engineer husband's land, maybe he does perfect plans, but
sometimes
the rest
you can
of
get
us
into that analysis paralysis, right? Where you never move forward because you're so busy doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's so fun to talk to someone like you, you know, it's like, okay, you're the strategy brain and you put stuff together. In my brain, you know, and this is one of the things I like to tell business owners and stuff is, hey, it's okay. None of us really have all our crap together. We're all learning as we go and we're doing it. And yeah, we've got more experience in some places than others, but even the person who makes the well documented plan doesn't always have the success. I mean, sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
having the right connection. Yeah,
countless times.
Yeah, having the right connections at the right point. Just like, oh, look at that person's in my life right now. Isn't that cool? Okay.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time. Like I'll be just, you know, because I do a lot of networking and connections and stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I was definitely supposed to meet you because this is the thing that I'm struggling with. And so I like meet, you know, it's like talk about a thing and then you like move on, and it's great.
And if you have a spirit of adventure about it, that's what makes it fun. You know, it's like, you know, if you can just get over yourself for a little bit and just, you're not going to have it all down pat. You're not going to have it all right. Mm-hmm. Understand who you are, how you show up, and go after it.
Yeah. There was a very distinct moment in my probably like early 30s that I was like, oh my God, no one's an adult. Like no one knows.
Right?
Holy shit. Like I can't even.
Like I'm not the only one that's not adulting out here.
Yes. Seriously. Like, you know, like everyone talks about that and like all the adults are like, oh, someday you'll figure out. And then it was like this, I don't even remember what it was or who I was talking to, but it was just this like beam of light comes down and is like, yeah, no one has it figured out. Everyone is a hot mess. Like, and I just like, it really like sunk in for whatever reason at that moment. And it literally changed my life. I was like, okay, all right, I'm okay.
Yep.
Nobody's well adjusted. No one has their shit together. It doesn't matter how rich you are, how poor you are, how educated you are. We're all hot messes in some way. So,
right? And how liberating
so
was
free.
that? How liberating was that? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Totally.
I was like, oh God, this is amazing. Okay. I can just carry on.
Right.
And do my best. That's all we're all doing is just trying to do our best to be the best we can.
And take that off your shoulders. I mean, it's like, I think that was I've had the same moment. I was like, oh my gosh, because for the first few years I was out in business space, I'm like feeling like totally insecure and inferior because I'm the nurse coming into this space. I don't know everything these people know. Getting into it enough that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I actually know more than they do on some of this. And I'm just as much of a mess as they are. And we're all a mess. And oh, okay. So yeah, cast off the insecurity and the inferiority thing. Just like get rid of it, you know?
Yeah. Cause like you said, we're all a bunch of little weirdos just trying to do our best little weirdos. just out here running around being weird. Trying to be a good
we've,
person.
we've got outdoor pool, and this just in the last couple of weeks here, we've realized we've got all kinds of box elder bug nymphs that are hatching. We're not sure where they came from, but all of a sudden they're showing up. And it's so funny because when you say little weirdos running around, I'm picturing all these nymphs running around.
Pretty much.
Sometimes they have ordering structure and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, they're just like, dude, I'm hungry. Like, is that not what we're doing right now? Or are we not? That's what I'm here for. I showed up for the snacks, bro.
Yep, right.
So anyway, yeah.
We digress. Can you imagine you and I digressing?
Yeah, weird. So when we first connected, and we've kind of mentioned a little bit here, but we talked about the importance of knowing strengths and weaknesses as a leader. How do you kind of help people with that process?
So what I do with people is I'm connected with internationally recognized assessment company. And what I love about their assessments is that they validate them. They they go back and do reliability testing on them. But what I love is helping people understand, like literally I say sometimes we take the sheetrock off the walls and let you see where the wires are. So you can actually use them on purpose. But using profile assessments to help them identify, like, oh, I'm really good at leading from the front of the room. And so I want to make sure I'm doing more of that. Or, you know what? It's not my strong suit to analyze and micromanage. We were talking detail stuff and, getting the different things, the paperwork pieces and those little things out to people, when you're getting ready for a podcast or whatever. Those are pieces I suck air at, and so I'm going to make sure that I delegate some of that stuff or whatever, and just helping leaders then be able to maximize their impact, because let's put you in your sweet spot. But if you don't know your sweet spot, then how are we going to put you there? Let's help you identify it. Let's get you some clarity around it. And as you build that clarity, it's going to build your confidence that, hey, I both have the experience and I have the paperwork, and you know what? I'm good at this. And I know I'm good at this. And then, because if you don't have confidence, it seeps into everything you do. But if you do have confidence, it's going to enhance everything you do. And so that's what I really love to do, is like, let me come alongside you. Some people call me a confidence coach, because I'm coming alongside and just helping you build that, saying like, oh yeah, that's why I was stressed out there. Okay, what can I do different? Oh, that's not my good spot. So I'm just going to know that I'm going to, so that's what I love to do, is use those profiles. It's kind of like when I was in nursing. It's like somebody could come to me and say, I'm really tired or I'm really dizzy. And I could say, it might be your hemoglobin. It might be your blood pressure. It might be, whatever. It might be your thyroid's off. But if we did a lab panel and we actually did a lab work, we could actually say, this is where it's at. And now we can be specific about what strategies we give you. That's what I'm doing now. The profile assessment is your lab work and alongside you and saying, okay, here's what we can do to help shore that up and what we can do to it. So
I think it's so helpful. Like one of my first leadership positions, first ones, I guess. So I used to work at Best Buy. That was I was there for about 9 years. And so when you first become a leader at Best Buy, you take, or at least you did, I don't know, it's been a minute since I worked there, but you would take the Strengths Finders survey, and that was a huge part of the culture there. But one of the things was that it was actually part of the culture. So we had our little pictures up in our sales development room for each department that we were in charge of. And so it'd be like, Kristin, she's strategic, relator, focus, input, and responsibility, I think was my first ones, because I've retaken it a couple times as I've evolved into a slightly crazier version. So
it's the name.
Yeah. So, but people knew. It'd be like, oh, that's James. He's such a woo, which means that, they love talking to people, and they just be like, or Bonnie's such a harmony. Like, she wants to make sure we're all getting along, guys. Like, so it made it easier to have the conversation and to be good at something. And that's something that I've noticed in a lot of corporate places or, larger businesses, where you can't talk about the things that you're good at, which is super weird to me, which means you also can't talk about the things that you're bad at. And no one can function as effectively as they should be able to together, because you have to keep it close to the vest, because there's that perception of, if Kristin says that she's good at this, she thinks that other people are bad at it. Or that if Kristin's good at this, Kris also can't be good at this too.
Right.
So,
a poverty
and
mindset, isn't it?
yeah, it's super weird. And it took me a while to kind of figure that out. In a couple of places, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, but that's part of the culture problem, right? In a lot of places. So where I can be like, I'm super strategic, and Kris can also be super strategic, and we're probably strategic in slightly different ways.
Yep.
So together, if you want like a super awesome plan, like we're gonna crush it. Or Kris and Kristin work together because Kristin's the planner and Kris is the doer. And so it's like, boom, like the two of them can just do whatever.
Yep.
We'll be like, hey, we need to do a thing. And then
and that's like when I do presentations on drama triangle, and the big thing with the drama triangle is in drama, we get stuck on the problem. All we're doing is spinning in a problem. Well, if we can flip it to an outcome and help you see an outcome, then okay, now we can bring Kristin's piece, we can bring Kris's piece, we can bring Sally's and Bob's. And that's where it's important to know your strengths and weakness, because if we're going to go for a specific outcome to get us out of this drama, we need to know what you can do. Let's know whose pieces are going to play better in this puzzle than others.
It's super weird because it's like I use a lot of sports analogies. I say a lot. I use some sports analogies because it makes sense. It's like Michael Jordan has a coach. So it's okay for you to need a coach. You need someone to be objective, right? Like there's that piece of it. But then on a basketball team or football team or whatever, everyone has a specific role. They have their thing that they're good at, and they have their stuff they're bad at. Like you're not going to have a lineman run to try and catch the ball because he's not built for that.
That's not who he
is.
You
know what? It's going to be the slowest game ever.
Right?
Like they still have to do cardio. They got to do some running, but it's not the same. Like they are built for power, not for speed.
Nope, exactly.
It's just such a weird, it's like, this is the only place where we do things so much differently than the rest of real life.
For sure.
Or even sports or whatever. Like it doesn't matter. It's like,
and
why can't you just say?
We could learn something from watching sports, couldn't we? We're mesmerized by sports. We pay big bucks for sports, but where do we actually take the lessons from watching a sports team and apply them?
Yeah,
for sure.
It's like that's kind of the approach that I've always had too, like in, like my teams, because there's always, you have some sort of like secondary leadership, or the person, like your full-time employee who's like, they want to be in leadership someday, or maybe it's more of a lead type position or something like that. There's someone, and I'm like, so I'm the coach, I'm hanging out here on the sidelines, and you guys are the ones that are like in there, like you're on the field, you can call an audible because you have information that I don't have. But you know what my goal is. My goal is to win.
Right.
I mean, our goal is to win as a team, but that means that you're out there and you can create support, and you're the one that is in the thick of it all the time. And then you communicate that back to me like, hey, coach, like this is what's going on. And then we come up with a plan. Like it's just,
and then we have to do it together. Yep. And we do it together.
Yeah. Yep. I can't see everything. You can't know everything and see everything either, because we have different perspectives, because I'm out here and you're in there, and I have cameras and stuff probably, but you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's so, there's so much of it that I'm like, everyone plays sports, or at least knows how to, like the concept of sports. And I'm like, how do we not carry this through? It becomes more of the, like, I'm in charge, do what I say concept. Which is just terrible, at least for us.
Well, it's kind of like, it's the difference between a manager and a leader, right? Are you going to be a leader, or are you going to be a manager? And a manager is going to tell you, these are your tasks. These are the things you have to do. A leader is going to let's draw each other out. Let's make this, let's influence the environment. Let's grow it. Let's do it. And that we draw out the best. Managers are kind of those taskmasters, I think. And so when you're, what kind of environment do you want? And which one flourishes the best? And there's a place for managers. We have to have those people, but can we have a person who's able to merge the two in their personality? And some of that shows up in a profile. If you have somebody who's high detail orientation, but struggles with the people skill, it's going to be harder for them to do that piece. But how do we help them lead through their style? The task is important, but how the people are still important too.
Yeah.
Look for the people who are really all about people, but they don't know how to do the tasks. We got to show them how to do that too. We have to integrate it.
Yeah. Cause I do think that you have to have a balance. Like I think as a business owner operator, not knowing how to do a significant chunk of your business is just unacceptable. Like, and even like in leadership, I've always taken that approach too. Of course, I mean, it's my opinion, so take that with a grain of salt, everyone. I do believe that I'm right most of the time. But
there was an occasion where you thought you were wrong, but you were mistaken, is what you're saying?
Right. Yeah. Someone else's opinion was still valid, I guess. But that's also part of being a leader, though, right? Is it like you have to believe that you're right almost all the time because your people have to believe that you're right. So, anyway, I forgot, what was I saying? I train wrecked myself.
You were talking about strengths and weaknesses and how do we need to know those and being a manager versus a leader.
Oh, yeah, it's because you do have to have an understanding of all the things. Like there's a lot of people who sort of like hogtie themselves because they can't or won't learn how to do a piece of it, whichever side of it is, and it's like you need to be able to at least understand enough to be able to have a conversation with a person who's going to do that for you in some way, shape, or form and understand what exactly they're doing. Like maybe not the nitty-gritty details of how it happens, but
well, and that's why you need to understand how they're wired, because if you come in there and you're the Ferrari and you're going to come in there at 50, way too fast, 150 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you're looking at somebody who's detailed and doing that part, you're going to need to know how to speak to them so that they hear you and not just shut you off. You don't have to do their task, but you need to know how to speak to them. And so that's really, even that is part of what I'm doing, right? Is like, okay, you have to understand Sally likes to operate at probably 35 miles an hour. And that may feel really incredibly slow to you. However, if you want to work with her in a successful way, this is what you're going to do. Go to a foreign country and try to talk to them and yell at them and scream at them in English and they don't understand a word. It doesn't matter what you're trying to accomplish. If they can't understand you, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's super valuable. And I think there's a lot of leaders and just kind of people in general they're like, if they don't get it, that's not my problem. Like, I've had lots of leaders like, well, I'll just, if email is their preferred method of communicating a strategy or something like that, they'll send an email and they're like, oh, well, if they don't get it, it's not my problem. That's how I sent it. And I'm like, but that works for like maybe half the people, maybe, because you're also talking about like learning styles at that point, how people absorb information, the effectiveness of a message when delivered in email, because some are appropriate and some are not. Some need to be a team meeting where people can ask you questions and freak out about whatever they want to freak out about because we don't like change. Right. And everyone freaks out in different ways. Like there's so many little pieces to that puzzle of little weirdos.
Well, and then understanding how to diffuse them. Because, that's part of when I'm working with people is like, okay, this is how Sally responds. But if Sally gets hot like this is what you're going to need to do to, people, as much as we're all unique and we do have some general categories we can say, like, a high driving personality, their biggest trigger tends to be that if they feel like they're taken advantage of, they're going to get angry. Okay. You got somebody that's moving fast and they feel angry, then you might want to dial back and just kind of clarify what you did so they don't feel like they're taken advantage of, to diffuse them. Mm-hmm. High interactives, they don't feel appreciated, man. They get a little sassy on you really fast if they don't feel appreciated. Well, can you say please and thank you to them? Say, hey, I really recognize that you went the extra mile to do that for our team, so thank you. Don't have to make a big grandiose show of it 9 times out of 10, but make sure they feel appreciated, because if they don't, you will know about it. You will hear about it. And I think there's even to being a good leader is knowing that part.
Mm-hmm. Because like there's some people too where sometimes you need to do more legwork before you do a team announcement, and you know that this person's going to have a meltdown in public, or they're going to immediately go to the negative and be like, oh, that's stupid. Why would we blah, blah, blah. So sometimes you have to do the legwork ahead of time. Be like, hey, Kris, like, I know you're going to hate this. Yeah. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to ask me all the questions and get it out of your system so we can figure out, whatever. So sometimes I would do that. Or if I was trying to like launch something new and I knew that I needed specific buy-in from people, then I would go do that first.
Exactly.
It's like, hey, like, what do you think about this?
Yep.
And they're like, oh, that's not a bad idea. Like, what about these things? The other thing
And
that popped in my head too when
that's
you're
being an
talking.
intentional leader. That's being a smart leader, like, okay, what's your
Mhm.
end game and what do you want to accomplish, and knowing what you need to do to get there.
Yeah. I mean, you can learn, especially with somebody like you, like,
Yeah.
because
Well, and
it's
that's what
hard.
I'm going to help you do. Yep.
Yep. There's so many people that don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are, to the degree that they really need to know, especially like as a business owner or a leader or both, obviously.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I was talking to someone that just started their own business, and they were like, yeah, I used to think I was organized until I started running a business. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, because creating systems is a whole different type of game from using systems that already exist. And she was like, yeah.
Right. Right.
Yep.
Well, and I like what
Yeah,
you
tell me
just said
about
a
it.
minute. I like what you just said a minute ago is you can learn this stuff. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of all of this is, did you
Yep.
and I know all this in the beginning? Heck no.
No.
No, I've been digging into this stuff I can think back to, God, I know it's the early 90s. It was before we had two kids and maybe a third, I don't know, but my husband and I went on this marriage thing. And that was where I was first introduced to the very basic disc profile. And it
Mm.
was like an amazing aha just to realize, like, oh my gosh, he does not see the world through the same set of glasses that I do. Like, he really doesn't. And that's
Yeah.
been 20 some years of learning and developing it. And I don't say that to make people hopeless, but to say, you know what? No matter where you start, it helps, because even that
Hmm.
basic understanding back in 1999 that helped me understand my husband, I still say that saved my marriage. It's like,
Probably.
it
Yeah.
helped
Hmm.
me understand that he really was not out to get me and that my boss wasn't out to get me, but how to. And that's even where now, like, I look back at when I left my nursing career, some of my frustrations, like, if I would have the understanding today if I would have had the understanding then that I have today, maybe I wouldn't have left.
Hmm.
Maybe I would have stayed in the role. Maybe I would have done some things differently. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't go back and change it, but I can tell you I've learned a lot since then. And I can look back at some of the things leadership and corporate was doing and go, oh, you know what? I wonder if this is what was going on the backside that I didn't know about. I changed
Yeah.
it. But
And
I've grown, I've matured.
yeah.
I'm still the little weirdo running around, but I'm a little bit bigger little weirdo.
Yeah. Slightly more mature.
I'm hoping so, but don't hold
Yeah.
your breath.
God, no. I mean, what would be the point? Be so boring.
Oh man.
Yeah, no, it's such a big thing because it's like that's really all it is. Like you're saying, like your personal growth journey is like you're the only person that has to deal with you like that for your whole life, and you can only do what you can do. Like you were saying, like me as a leader 20 years ago, whole different person. I
Totally.
couldn't have tough conversations. I couldn't hold people accountable. I mean, like I could, but I needed like backup and support. But then
You
like
were
some of
probably
those
crapping in your
natural.
pants at the same time.
Yeah, because I used to care, and I still care, but I cared a lot about what people thought about me. I wanted people to like me because, I mean, God, like childhood trauma, whatever,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Um,
Well, we
I
all
was a
do.
people pleaser. Yeah, exactly. Like we're programmed to want people to like us. Like that's just humans. We want people to like us because we are a little community. So,
Yep.
yeah, so I had to like work through some of that stuff, and at some point I realized accountability makes people like you. Like when you're their leader, if you leave and your team goes, yeah, she was really nice, you did a shit job,
Yep.
uh because they liked you as a human, but you were a terrible leader if that's the only thing that they could say. Like, yeah, she was nice, but that means that Kris over here didn't show up on time for work, um 50% of the time, and you did nothing about it, or
Yep.
like those little kinds of things. And there's all these little intricacies because accountability is important. And people who say that we're all adults and we should, I'm using air quotes aggressively for those of you who can't see me, we're all adults and we should just act like it, are full of shit, because we're all just children who now pay bills. Probably.
We're working on this. We're working on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, we're still, it's like we all just, we need accountability in some way, shape, or form. Some of it comes from us intrinsically. Like there's certain things that we'll just do because we think we're supposed to. And then sometimes we need accountability. That's why people hire trainers and coaches. And that's why we have cops and why we have judges and like this whole,
Right.
like, we're not the
Yeah, we
only
have
one. The whole
boundaries.
globe,
Yep.
the globe has, we have to have a government structure and some, because there has to be people in charge who go yes or no.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, that's a whole
Sorry
nother
to do that.
diatribe.
It's a whole nother digress.
Yeah, it's like you have to, like, learning to hold people accountable was hard and at the beginning, and I learned a lot of ways that make it easier for me to be able to do that, you know, to be able to hold people accountable or fire them if I have to, God forbid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
to recognize what's going off inside of you. You know, what's your fear that you're facing at that point? Oh, if I fire them, everybody's going to hate me. Well, no, actually, maybe 9 out of 10 will like you because they finally got rid of the toxicity. You know, they're like, actually, one person's not going to like you. That's the person that got fired. But 9 that are left are going to go, oh, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. There was definitely one that, like, it was almost like the floor was like, yes. But I had also promoted that person too, and so then I had to be like, well, that was not the right decision, but I guess now I'm going to fix that.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
sometimes you can have more hope in people or for people than they can produce, but you know, people are people. So
and that's part of being a leader is calling out the best, right? You're giving them an opportunity to shine. You're giving them an opportunity to step up, and sometimes they don't take that for their own reasons. And learning that people do things for their own reasons was huge to me. Is like,
oh yeah,
learning that they have self-preservation just like I do, you know?
Yeah. And they have their own triggers and they're looking at the world through their own filter and through their childhood trauma and all those kinds of things.
All that stuff too. Yep.
Yeah. That's something been an important piece of the learning process for me too. It's still like, I've always had, like, as a leader, those relationships and dynamics have always been very easy for me to manage because it's very clear cut. It's like, I am in charge. Period.
Yep.
You know, there are some other things that go in there, but like, I'm the boss of you. And then outside life, it's not always been as clear because it depends, you know, there's all different varying levels of dynamics and power balances and all those kinds of things that happen. And so translating a lot of the lessons that I've learned in like leadership has been like, oh, okay, like, it's okay. Like they're doing this. How they're treating me is a reflection of them, not of me. I don't have to fix this. Like,
don't you wish you would have known that one? That one right there.
Oh my God. Yes. Like, so side note, I'm launching a nonprofit for junior high and high school age girls to try and help teach some of this stuff, like before they have to go through 10 shitty relationships to figure it out, you know? I mean, not everyone, obviously, but, you know, to teach some of those things where it's like, that's them. It's not, here's your part. Here's you expressing your boundaries and hopefully communicating your frustration or conflict in a somewhat healthy manner, hopefully. Yep. And then at some point, it's not you anymore. You don't have to fix it and you can just walk away and that's fine too. But my God, if I had known that 20 years ago.
Changes everything, doesn't it?
Seriously. And it's still a process, right? That's our whole thing here. It's like, we're all still a work in progress.
That I think that's the key. If you wanted to tell a leader something today to encourage them, just say it's a process. It's a process.
Yeah. You'll never, I've been managing people and businesses for 20 years. Like, I do not have a college degree. I have, I have like an AA in psychology, but come on, it's not real. I had to take math to get that.
Like, school of hard knocks is what I'm thinking you went through. Yeah.
That's exactly how I describe. I'm like, I learned everything at the school of hard knocks. But it took me 20 years, you know, of various lessons and leaders and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so what 3 takeaways do you feel like people should get from this? What do you think are the 3 things that people should take from this interview today?
Things I really want people to know. Number 1, what we just said, it's a process. Give yourself some grace, give yourself permission to grow up and to go and learn the stuff. Number 1, it's a process. Don't be afraid to start small. And don't be afraid to invest in yourself, because how did we get where we're at, Kristin? We've invested in ourselves. That's number one, it's a process. Number two, invest in yourself, invest in your process. Take the time to get to know yourself, spend some money on a coach and spend some money on whether it's Enneagram or whatever assessments. Get some stuff, get some understanding of how you're wired so you can accelerate it. Find out if you're a Ford or a Chrysler or a Buick or whatever you are. Find out, are you the speeds car, or you're going to have that intuitive knowing. A lot of times when I do assessments with people, they're like, oh, I knew that already. I'm like, yeah, I'm just validating it.
Mm-hmm.
And so take the time to know it's a process. 2, invest in yourself. And then 3, celebrate the small stuff along the way. Learn to enjoy the ride. Because darn, 8 years ago, if I would say this is where I was at, maybe I'd been frustrated, maybe I'd been excited. I don't know. But you know what? Learning to enjoy the process, enjoy the connections along the way, the friendships and the relationships I've made as I've gone through the process, priceless. Take the time to get to know people along the journey. It's huge, but celebrate it. Celebrate the small stuff, because you're going to wake up and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I missed everything. No, take the time to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are
That's
important. And it builds your resilience for tomorrow. Because if you're so busy pushing hard and you're not celebrating, then tomorrow you hit the brick wall and you crash. It's going to be a lot harder to get up. Yeah. And there's a few brick walls out there. We've hit them. You've hit them. I've hit them. Darn it anyway.
I repeatedly try to scale some of them.
Been there, done that.
I'm like, maybe if I just push this brick here in the middle out, it'll be like reverse Jenga or something. Like maybe I can just
stay curious. There you go. I can't even stay at just 3 things. Stay curious. That would be my other thing.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Stay curious.
Yeah. Stay curious. Yeah, because it really is like if you stop having fun, then what's the point? You might as well just go work for someone else again.
Have a sense of adventure. Be willing to learn.
Yep. Don't be afraid to fail. This is like we have like 16. Yeah. Just go. Like failing is learning, man. Like I can't tell you. Most of the time it doesn't even register to me as failure unless it's something that I just quit doing. Yeah. Sometimes feels like a failure to me. But like most of the time it's just like the continued evolution. I'm like, I'll try something and I'm like, man, I didn't really like that. But I did learn that I do like this piece of it. So, okay.
Perfect.
The next iteration, it's all just, it's not the same anymore. Or if a program doesn't take off, I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should have tried this differently with my marketing, or it's fine. You'll figure it out. And that's part of the fun. I think anyway.
I totally agree, but that's that stay curious, stay hungry,
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. It's good. It's great, Kris. How can we find you on the internet?
On that thing called the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
So the best place you can find me is at impactzonestrategies.com. That's the first place. Or else on LinkedIn. Just Kris Langworthy on LinkedIn, Kris Langworthy, Langworthy. On LinkedIn, probably the 2 best places to find me.
Perfect. Okay. Do you have anything you're working on that you want people to know about?
So what I'm working on right now is getting ready to launch another rendition of a masterclass on drama triangles and helping people understand how to do that. And really what that is all about is just building confidence, helping people build confidence in their communication and their collaboration, and how to prioritize. The other kind of got 2 things that, somebody told me I was supposed to focus on one thing, but I'm not really good at that.
Me neither. No, I don't have the attention span for that. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So, got that sitting out there. I just got the opportunity, by the time this is aired, it'll be interesting what's all going down in the world. But, as we're recording this, it's August, and I was able to do an in-person workshop yesterday. And that's the first one I've done in 18 months. And that is my jam. I love doing in-person workshops. And it was just like honey to my soul yesterday. So I would love, if you've got a company that's looking for, building some team culture, building some level of capacity within your team, or just looking for you to build yourself as a leader so that you can lead your team better, let's talk about doing a workshop or a VIP day for you or some coaching. Those are my favorite places to be. It's just really helping up those leadership things and helping you find your priorities. I've got a whole program called the Prioritized Leader that I work with people through, helping them understand, what's your purpose? How do you work with people? What's your pace? What's your perception, which is all about your innovation cycles. And that when you get those in order, you're going to profit. And so then helping people get those priorities in the right place so that they can profit. Because at the end of the day, we all need our cash registers to ring. We can't live on love and fresh air, darn it, anyway, But how do we make these businesses actually make their cash register ring by helping them get all those priorities in order, their people, their purpose, their pace, and their innovation in the right order so that they can profit and do well. But I tend to focus most on the people piece just because that's where it shows up. But I touch on those other priorities just to help people understand it's a piece of the whole puzzle. So that's what I'm working on these days, is connecting with people so that they can do that. So that would be great if anybody's interested in, like, I just want to build my confidence. I want to know that I'm doing this. I can't even say right, because I don't think there is right way.
Yeah.
Use that word. But what is a more effective way that I can
to my best ability?
There you go.
Doing this to the best of my ability.
Especially because I'm a non-compliant personality type. I'm like, there's a right way? What the heck? There's more than one way to skin a cat, you guys. Come on.
Yeah.
But there are
100%.
There are some better ways to do things. And I tend to always be looking for a better way. Are you looking for a better way to lead? Are you looking for a better way to work with your people? Then let's talk.
No, it's great. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to help on
right?
the whole. I'm still more of a generalist, and it's like, I'm like, oh man, you get me talking about leadership philosophy. Okay.
She's gone.
Yeah. It's like my favorite. Yeah, very cool. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today. It was a great conversation. And I'm sure I will be talking to you soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Kristin, for having me. And to everybody else, may the best. I want to say may the 4th be with you, but it's not even the 4th today. So never mind. Have a great day.